Life is beautiful. It leaves an impression in everyone's mind. The growing moss on a stone, an emerging sunset, or creepers looking for support. Your favorite food or hunger that you might have seen on a railway platform, or a newborn baby, or sometimes seven babies. All these leaves a deep impression in your mind. Collection of all these informations and impressions forms our life experience. But do we see all what happens around us? Did you notice a passing flight in the picture of sunset? Did you see the eighth baby, not a newborn? Or have you realized how creepers search for support? You see only a part of the reality that is necessary for your survival. You cannot see the whole. You see by attention, modify the information a bit to fit a context, add your personal values to form your perception. I discussed this in the previous video, all these issues. If you have not seen it yet, please watch the video and the link is given in the description. Since our own personal conditioning is involved in perception and viewing things, our outer world that we see should probably look different. But that is not the case. Ice feels cold, rocks are solid, sky is blue, and trees do not work. We all of us see the same reality. Today, we are going to discuss why the outer world appears unique and identical. Hello, I'm Pradeep Kumar Mohanty, a professor in physics at Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, Kolkata. I welcome you all to my channel Attah. I also request you to subscribe this channel. Any financial help from YouTube through your subscription will be utilized for science promotion in certain rural schools. Today, we are going to discuss the following question. If reality is our personal construction, as you have discussed earlier, then why doesn't it look different to each of us? Why the outer world appears unique and identical? Let me explain this question a bit better. Professor David Eagleman described the theory of perception as a potato head theory. Human beings are like potatoes with 5 external senses or sensory organs attached to them. Receptors in these organs receive signal from outer world and passes it to the brain, and the brain processes it somehow to generate a perception for us. He was in fact talking in context in a different context, that along with these natural organs, we can attach more artificial organs to perceive the world better, like X-rays, through which we can see our bones, or ultrasound, through which we can see the babies in the womb, or infrared cameras, through which we can have night vision. I will be talking about the 5 natural sensory organs only. In computer language, we receive about 10 million bits of information per second through our 5 senses. The eye itself, our eyes itself gather about 8 million bit, and 1 million bit is received by the skin, and 1/10 of a million comes from nose and ear. And our tongue sends about 1000 beat per second. So on the average, we get about 10 million beats per second of information. So we cannot process such massive flow of information. To do that, we need to eat about 1.5 tons of food every day, which is utterly impossible for a small digestive system we have. We adopted a very low cost solution. We process only about 100 bit of information per second, and which of these 100 bit out of 10 million, we choose it by our attention and construct the rest of the story from context, memory, and preconditioning and previous experiences. So if you want to compare it, it is like taking one word from the novel Life of Pi and construct the whole story. Okay. So the story of reality, what we called outer world, the story of reality being constructed from such a little information can completely go wrong, right? Because this guesswork sometimes might go wrong. Moreover, since our construction is very personal, the corresponding perceived world must differ widely. That's natural, right? We know because you are getting only a little information and each of us receive differently. Then why do you see the outer world unique and identical? So this is the question we are going to discuss today. Before answering this question, please allow me to ask another question. When we're awake during the day, our brain is fully active. Let us put a number for such an active state. We call it, in some unit, let us call it 100 unit. So the question is, how active is your brain when you go to sleep, a deep sleep? So if the active state is considered 100 in some units, what would be the activity when you are asleep? That's the question. Many people will answer it as 50 or low. Okay, because you might feel even 50% is quite high, as you do nothing during sleep. Some of you may even think the activity is below 5%. So now let us look at the scientific evidence. This research work which I'm going to talk about is done by Dr. Hong and co-workers from Maryland University. The link is given in the description below. In this experiment, they conduct functional MRI, on 15 healthy individuals, both men and women and of different ages. Okay, and they find that the sleep brain is almost as active as it is in the awake state. So if you want to put numbers, if the active state is 100%, the deep sleep state is about 94%, which means that you are only about 5% more active during the day. So if you consider sleep is nothing, so what you are doing in the day is only 5% in terms of the brain activity. Extra 5% you are doing, the brain is doing only extra 5% during the day when you are awake. So then this answer is might be very uncomfortable and might surprise you. Okay, what is the brain doing when you are asleep? We feel we do nothing during the sleep. But if you look at minutely, little carefully, then you know that the question you are asking is very wrong way. The question is posed very wrong way. Scientifically, a more relevant question would be the following: what activities occur in our body when you are awake versus when you are asleep, irrespective of whether you are aware about those activities or not? The activities are happening. The activities of our body are of two types: voluntary and involuntary. Voluntary activities are those which we choose to do with our will. Like I raise my hand if I want to, or I speak when I wish, or I eat when I desire. On the other hand, we don't have control on involuntary activities. These activities occur all the time without our awareness. Like in our body, 2 million red blood cells are produced in every second. Our kidney filters about 8 liters of liquid every hour. And our lungs ventilates about 6 liters of air every minute. So all these activities are nothing if you take into account the massive muscle activities that happen in our body. The muscle must relax during the sleep. Okay. At the same time, the brain remains attentive to ensure that our weight is supported properly by our muscles so that we don't fall down. All these activities happen during the day when you are awake or during the night when you are asleep. Now that you know, does it feel surprising that the brain activities during sleep is as much as it is during the day? I suppose no. Then you can ask why we felt that way, that during sleep we don't do anything. The sleep state is an idle state. This is because we identify ourselves with the voluntary activities only, which gives rise an impression or a false perception that sleep state is idle. Unfortunately, this is a wrong kind of identification. It gives us a feeling that I is same as the sum of my voluntary activities. Large part of our ego is built and protected by this identity. We do not associate ourselves with the involuntary activity, as if those are not ours. Those are somehow done automatically. We don't have any responsibility, or we have no responsibility and no role to play for the involuntary activities. We take it granted and we dissociate ourselves from it. Our small identification, that is 5% of all activities, is very narrow and probably unreasonable also. This is our ego, which is like a coat. This identification is is our ego, and this is like a coat that we wear all the time as long as we are alive. During the night, when you go to bed, we take off this coat, leave aside our ego and awareness, and then go to sleep. When we wake up again, we wear this coat again and revitalize our ego and self. This coat is our identity. It carries our name, our relationship with others, our place in the world, our religion, our political views, nationality, and everything that we consciously know. This is the coat. Unfortunately, we identify ourselves with the coat, which is only 5%. We don't identify with the body behind the coat, which is 95%. Our intelligence, reasoning, belief, behavior are all within this 5%. Clearly, there is not much difference between you and me. We are not different from each other. The difference in terms of brain activity is at most 5%. Actually, typically 1%. Okay? Rest of the activity which are involuntary occurs precisely in the same way, same manner in all our bodies, in you and in me. It might bother you that why evolution made us like this. I mean, why we cannot control large part of the activities in our body. But if you look at very carefully, we are not using the 5% freedom which we are given with complete awareness and responsibility. We are the overpopulated species in the earth, and we are responsible for the global warming, species extinction, environmental pollution. We are the cause of war, destruction, and poverty. To control the essential activities of the body, one must be much more attentive and responsible, not the way we are. Are we aware enough to take care of our own body? Can we voluntarily ventilate 6 liters of air per minute lungs or filter 8 liters of liquid per hour via kidney? How many of us can handle voluntary control of heartbeats if we are asked to do so? We will surely mess up. Probably will kill ourselves within 3 minutes. So, rather, let us appreciate now that all crucial activities required for functioning of the body are done involuntarily. It is essential for our survival. Let us appreciate also that our brain is our best friend. During the day when we are busy displaying our ego extensively, it keeps working on the essential activities of our body, keeps our body going without bothering us, without even letting us know. During night, when we are tired of this massive display of ego and we need some rest, the brain takes complete responsibility and it keeps awake and takes full control of the essential activities. The whole night, it also cleans faithfully the toxins that we produced while awake. It guards our body. It is our faithful friend. It does all these activities relentlessly, day after day, years after years, without taking rest. On the other hand, look at us. With the 5% freedom which we have, we abuse our body and interfere badly with the vital activities. We smoke, we drink. Sometimes we raise a war against our brain. All this certainly hurts a faithful friend. With passing time, we grow old and the brain also becomes tired. At this point, some problems and dysfunctions occurs in our body because the brain cannot take care of it anymore. That's what we call a lifestyle disease. The brain, unable to cope up, sends us a message to our conscious self in the form of pain and discomfort, asking for help, just help. But we don't listen to this warning message. We don't respond at all. On the other hand, we have created organizations where we can run to those organizations and ask, give me a pill and take away this pain and discomfort. I'm not going to change my lifestyle. I want to do exactly what I have been doing. Just take away my pain. Well, the pills sometimes work. It gives us some relief and comfort for a few more days. But eventually, the same thing reappears. Perhaps I should not discuss this issue on clinical practice and lifestyle disease now. Maybe I can make a separate video on this. Let me come back to the original question. Why the outer world looks alike? To summarize, the activities happening in our body are of two types. voluntary and involuntary. We associate ourselves with the voluntary activity, which is only a small fraction of the whole. The involuntary activity is associated with essential body function. How your brain controls your heart or kidney is no different from how my brain controls my heart or kidney. These processes are very static and form a solid reference frame within each of us, because any difference or alteration may bring in undesirable consequence, maybe death even. We are different from each other at most by 5%, typically 1%. The connectivity in our brain through neurons and corresponding functionality is largely identical. When the hardware is same, it is no surprise that the corresponding output in terms of perception are also same. It's not that we don't differ. Yes, we do. But we differ only a little. We sometimes disagree on which of these colors is more red, or which of the political ideology serves us better, or whether one should allow street dogs in residential area or not. We differ on these little issues. But the outer world, which is generated by the activity, largely coming from the involuntary part of the activity, is perceived identical. Same way. Ice is cold, rock feels hard, sky is blue, and trees cannot walk. We all see the same. Even though we process only a small fraction of information we receive, the world still looks alike because the reality constructing machine has a fixed and static reference frame. That answers the question. The outer world is only a convincing story produced by all of us together through conformity. With this little bit of freedom, don't we feel like being in a prison with 5 windows or senses? Are we not suffocated that we have no control on most of the activities occurring within us? Is there any way to access some of these involuntary activities? Well, I cannot answer these questions. My guess is yes, probably there is a way. One of these activities, involuntary activities, breathing, is essential. Breathing, if you look at that, breathing is essential and it is done involuntarily. Most of the time we have no awareness about breathing. Okay, we don't feel that we are breathing. Most of the time we don't have awareness, but we can also do it voluntarily. I can decide not to breathe for a minute, and I can always do that. And the world record of not breathing right away is probably about 15 and a half minutes. Maybe breathing, which is the boundary between voluntary and involuntary activities, and breathing is the key for the involuntary activities. Maybe breathing is the key. Many people have talked about the process of controlled breathing. I don't want to comment on this because I don't have any personal experience. You will also not know about it unless you do it. Okay? Okay then. Before I end this story, let us take a deep breath together.